And we're live. Exciting. Happy Women's Day, Tando.
Happy Women's Day. Hi, everyone.
How does it feel to be celebrated?
Today's a tricky day for me. It's a really, really tricky day.
Okay.
There have been I feel like women need to be celebrated throughout the year. And I struggle with only having one day where it's like Happy Women. It's Happy Women's Day every day.
Yes.
But I don't want to be corny about it, so Happy Women's Day. And you?
No, I'm happy. It's nice to be celebrated because I think we are definitely worth being celebrated. I definitely agree with celebrating our womanhood like throughout the year. But this for me, it's not a huge deal, but it's beautiful just to have a day to say, yo. And my husband would say, no, it's not Mother's Day. I was like, I'm a woman outside of being a mother, so celebrate less, you know. But yeah, it's a happy day. I'm happy. I'm glad to be having this conversation.
Finally
talking about womanhood, which is a huge subject on its own, but hopefully we can touch and cover a lot of ground about what it means to be a woman and what it means to exist outside of what a woman is expected to be.
That's awesome.
Cool. So before we begin with our guests, we thought it would be really special to put together a video celebrating women with a group of amazing women defining what womanhood or being a woman is for them and for us. So we're going to share the video in a bit. And here video.
Being a woman is being resistant and unapologetic.
Being a warrior for change.
Being able to use your emotions and your vulnerability to be the powerhouse that you were created to be.
Stressful, it's layered, and it's also a privilege.
Being completely unapologetic and unashamed of who I am.
Striving for my goals, even when faced with adversity that I encounter along the way.
Being a diva, soft, with a good heart, but very strong.
As being the best version of yourself and having the loudest laugh in the room.
Recognizing that you're a force and showing up as her.
Having the courage to take on any challenge with grace.
Being a woman is purity.
Understanding that I am power, foundation, and living each and every day building on that.
That I'm strong, powerful, and valuable.
Being a woman is about thriving in all the uncertain spaces that we find ourselves in.
Being powerful and assertive yet kind.
Being a woman is a superpower.
It is nurturing. It is love personified. But
being a woman is creation's biggest honor.
Is living my truth and knowing that I am enough.
Being fearless enough to do and be whatever you want.
Being a woman is a privilege.
Yes.
Being a woman is being resistant and
Whoa. Hey, Karabo, I think you're muted.
Can't you guys read lips?
I try my best. It's just only on Mondays.
I was sending a shout out to every woman that was bold and beautiful enough to send us that beautiful video of themselves defining what womanhood is. Thank you. Tando, you can introduce our amazing guests.
So, the topic for today, we're going to be discussing existing outside of expectations, right? So we thought, who better to have this conversation with than Tuli, who is a powerhouse on her own, and Melody Zondo, who is one of Mrs. South Africa's, Mrs. Universe South Africa semi-finalists, to have this conversation with us and share their experiences. And ladies, join us. Let's talk about,
hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, guys. Hello.
Hello.
Look at the beauty.
Right.
Hello.
Happy Women's Day, ladies.
Thank you so much. Happy Women's Day to you
Happy
too.
Women's Day to you too.
We're very grateful to have you guys here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome. Okay, Tando, I think we can kick it off with our topic.
So, ladies, when we live outside of our expectations, right? We're talking work, we're talking parenting, we're talking relationships, we're talking family, and the first thing we wanted to get into is toxic workspaces, right? So first we want to put out a question to anyone who's watching on how they deal with toxic workspaces. Melody, I know that you own your own business as well, but you have worked in like a corporate space. We've all worked, right? We've all worked in corporate workspaces before we started our own thing. So I'll actually start with you, Tuli. How do you go about creating a non-toxic workspace for yourself? Because a lot of crazy things can happen at work. You don't like the people that work there. The boss treats you terribly. How do you deal with those kinds of issues?
I think it's got nothing to do with other people, firstly, right? So I think once you've defined who you are as a person, I think it becomes easier for you to relate to others. And so I think for me, the first point of call that I would say we need to begin, say, how do you allow yourself to relate to others without being affected by their negativity? Because here's the thing, you will constantly find yourself in different spaces, in different platforms, and in different, sectors, to speak, because in essence, as you move along life, you are beginning to shift and change who you are. And as you move along life as well, you also see that you're no longer the person that you used to be. And so the higher you go, in fact, what I mean is that you begin from school, and then you go to tertiary, and then you start working. And so there is never a time where you don't find negative people, so to speak, right? And so you can't always say to yourself, how do I not find myself in toxic spaces? You say, how do I allow myself to not get affected by toxic people or toxic spaces? So that means that you have to work a lot with defining who you are, so that even though other people are negative, it doesn't get to affect you as a person to a point, in the extent to which you lose who you are, to the extent and point to where you forget why you are there, And so if you as a person exude light, exude positivity, exude, you begin to then affect that place, because there is no way that light can come into a dark place and not light up the whole place. And there is no way that you can be love and not affect love around people who are not loving, you see? So you need to be the X factor in a non-X factor place. So you need to be able to define who you are and be able to exude the fragrance you are in each and every room you find yourself in. So that's what I would say is a point to begin when you want to, exclude yourself or extricate yourself from a negative situation.
I hear you. It's actually making me think of, there was a time where, and Melody, I think you can relate. There was a time we worked in the same space.
Yeah.
And this place was toxic.
Yeah.
Like, we dealt with always being our ideas always being put down. whatever you do it was never good enough. You were told to speak up. When you speak up, you're shut down. And what I found with that experience for me was that I was taking that toxicity home. And I get home, and all I did, all the ride home, I was complaining about work. I get home, I'm complaining about work. I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to that place again. And I was expected to be okay, and I really, really wasn't okay. And I didn't know how to deal with that. Melody, how did you handle that? How did you?
Shoo, it was hard. Let me just tell you, it was hard. Listen, if personally for me, if I didn't have the support that I have at home in terms of my husband and the group of friends, and family that I have, I think I would just have left a long time ago. So I think it's very important to have, a support structure, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you love your job, because there's different personalities in the workspace. There's always going to be that person or two that you don't get along with or you don't agree with, so it's important that you make sure that you have your thing, where after a long day at work, when you go home, you have a safe space where that you can just be yourself and just tell your partner about the kind of day that you had without feeling judged, or without feeling like you're just complaining all the time. But I also think, like, when we're working, you need to remind yourself why you're there in the first place, because if you're just there just to, for the salary, you're going to have issues at the end of the day. You need to make sure that you have a goal, a specific goal in terms of why am I here? For instance, when we were working together, for me, the goal was I'm gaining experience, I'm doing things that I've never done before, so I'm challenging myself at the same time. And yes, it was a very toxic environment. However, I walked away from it, being a different person, thinking, I never knew I could do that, and I did it. So for me, always remind yourself, why you are there in the first place. Don't make it to be just about the money. You need to ask yourself, do you want to grow your career? Do you want to network? Do you want to learn? What is it that you want to gain from that? Because at the end of the day, as much as it's about your work and career and everything, it's also about the experience that you take away from it.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I think the common thread here is, okay, but firstly, I think one thing we shouldn't underestimate is the power that our careers and our workspaces have on us. Because in essence, we spend 8-9 hours in this one environment, right? And it plays a huge role, because that's where we end up spending majority of our time. I mean, you wake up 5 a.m. in the morning, you are in traffic, and you are out the house, and then you are in this space for such a long time. So that is bound to affect you one way or the other, right? And if it's a negative space, then that negativity can definitely trickle into other parts of your life, your relationship, your family. So I think, like, just in terms of what Tando said resonates with me so much, because I also found myself in spaces where, oh my gosh, I was like the thought of going to work gave me stomach cramps. It was like, do I really have to go back there? Do I have to? But the answer is, yeah, Mara, who's gonna pay the bills? You have to go back, right? So the expectation that you have to have the salary just pushed me towards just going there. And I love what Truly is saying, is that your efficiency and your happiness at work has to exist outside of other people. So it has to be an inside job to say, I can maintain my positivity regardless of the negativity that's around me. And I think it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of intention, because I was in the HR space for a lot of time, and you see the dynamics. Someone starts, and then a couple of weeks or months later, like, the energy is not there anymore. Like, it starts up here, and then it slowly does that, and you slowly find yourself with everybody else sharing in that negativity. So finding that innate happiness about being in the space, again, going to Melody saying, understanding why you're there, because I think that's very important. Understanding that I'm here because I want to gain experience, and if you feel like it's something that you can tolerate, then you can remove all the other negativity. But I think sometimes it gets really, really toxic that you can't manage it. So Tando, what do you do in that case? What did you do in that case where the negativity just got too much and you couldn't handle it?
I left. I left. It got so bad. It was really messing. It was not only messing with my relationship, it was actually messing with my mental health. And and the people who know me know I'm a fixer. I'm a fighter and I'm a fixer. You give me a problem, I am here to find solutions. But I was in a space where my solutions weren't working and weren't welcomed. And I had to also sit down and say, actually, you can do this on your own. So I left. And before I left, I took a pay cut. It was rough, but I was like, I would rather be happy mentally and physically and spiritually than be in a space that's not taking me anywhere. If I'm not growing, I'm not interested. That's my new attitude. And it won't be as easy for everyone, but I really think planning goes a long way. Researching your next step goes a long way, because that's another thing we want to talk about today is we need to take responsibility as well. You can't just sit and be the victims of your workspaces. You have to say, okay, cool, this isn't working. What's my next step?
Yeah.
Tuli, what would you do if you were in that kind of space?
Sorry, was that a question?
Yes, for you. When staying is not an option, what do you do?
Oh, yeah. So if staying is not an option, is that the question? Sorry, my line is quite bad.
Sorry. Can you hear me, Tuli?
Yeah. Okay. So
So when staying is not an option,
I can,
what
but it
else?
just keeps. Okay. So when staying is not an option, I think you need to be able to evaluate what the other options are. Right? So obviously, in the case of Tando, she suffered a lot of mental health, which is the impact of a toxic condition, a toxic space. You are bound to suffer mentally and spiritually and emotionally, and that in fact drives one to a point of almost no return. There are people that make it out of a toxic situation, but when you do find yourself in a state where, for instance, it is a job, but you actually cannot leave immediately, but you also cannot stay. I think what you need to do is to evaluate what are the best options you can visit at that point. And so for me, I would say make and create a support structure so that in the instance where you cannot stay in that situation no longer, you're able to say, okay, who can help me through this situation? Do I have friends? Like what beautiful Melody was saying, that if you are able to actually go to a family member and say, you know what, I'm in this situation and I'm quite at my wit ends. I cannot do this anymore. What advice do you think I can, I can do in this situation? Because also when you are in a toxic situation, you cannot think straight. You become very disillusioned and you become very emotional. So at that point, you need someone who is outside the situation and who can actually help you think clearly, so to speak, because at least someone who's outside of the situation can evaluate the situation and say, okay, is it you or is it the other person? Is it your environment that's actually the problem? And so once that person begins to give you, they give you another insight, because there's two ways you can look at it. They say 2020 is data's vision, right? So at hindsight, you look and say, I could have done things better. I could have done this. I could have done that. But you go and you say, what are my avenues? Who are the people that I can consult? So for some people, they've got the luxury of going to a psychologist. They've got a luxury to go to a therapist, and they've got a luxury to consult their life coach. But it's not the case for all of us. It is not the case with every situation where you can be able to go and say, guys, this is what I'm through. But I think the first thing also, it would be to not push yourself any further than you are. Because here's the thing, we do not acknowledge the impact of losing your mind when you are starting to feel like you're losing your mind. So you want to see how long you can stay as but for how long will it last, you see? And you don't know what impact could that make, because you see, mental health does not start with the mind only. It starts replicating itself in the body as well. So for other people, they'll start feeling physically sick. They'll start having symptoms around their abdominal, which actually is a sign that you are holding this, you are resenting, right? And so before you go to work, you feeling cramps, you start feeling abdominal pains. That's a sign of stress. And so for other people, they'll start developing migraines, right? And so that is a sign that you are having some sort of feedback in your brain, in your subconscious, that there is some trauma that you are experiencing. And so you don't want a situation where physical environment is starting to manifest itself in your body, because it has lifelong impact. For instance, if you develop some abdominal and some things around the stomach, that could actually manifest itself in a way that you as a woman cannot be fertile anymore, for instance. And so when you trace back, all of these things are because of a mental condition that you have developed that are starting to manifest itself physically, and they have a lifelong impact. And I don't think any of us can afford, yes, you can afford to go to the hospital, but in a long run, you cannot afford to be able to, treat those things, because in actual fact, they become generational. You start passing them to your children and your children's children, and they've got generational impact. And so I think for me to you, evaluate what your avenues are, but do not test how far you can go.
Sure. Yeah, that's a really great point, and I think I could definitely echo that, to say it took me being admitted and going into ICU with heart problems for me to say, yeah, it's fine.
Enough.
I pushed myself too hard. It's time for me to reevaluate what is it that I am doing, why is it not working, and what my next steps are. So that I can definitely echo and say it's true. That kind of anguish, that kind of unhappiness can definitely manifest itself physically, and people can get really sick. To me, Abby here says most of us don't even realize that we are in that toxic space until it's too late and you are in a deep depression. So you only realize like later on, like, yeah, so this is what it's been doing, which is really sad.
And it does trickle through, like you're saying, Tuli, it does trickle through and start affecting, like we've said, your relationships. I think as well as I'm an aunt, so I can't speak for this, but being a parent, I can imagine that it also starts affecting you as a parent. And you get your work expectations, and then you get home and now you're expected to be the wife or the girlfriend or the mom as well. It's stuff like that really, really we need to work through, guys.
I don't know for Melody if this ever happened for you when you became a parent, but for me, just becoming a mom injected me with a level of confidence I didn't even know I possessed, right? Because now I started making decisions not only on my behalf, but I also started making decisions on behalf of my child, to say, you know what, I actually don't want to do that. I actually don't want to keep pushing myself to be in an environment that does absolutely nothing for me but just give me money, and bring that kind of baggage at home to my family, to my child. Plus, my child was pretty small when I was still in corporate, and children can sense when there's an unhappiness in the home, and I think that's one important thing that we have to note, especially when it comes to just parenting, to say energy is everything, and the energy that you kind of possess kind of feeds off onto your children, and then when you're not happy, they aren't happy. So
Yeah.
it took a lot on my side to actually figure out how am I going to make myself happy so that I can ensure that my home is also
happy.
so happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because I remember when I was still in corporate, I was in finance, and the hours were very, very long. Sometimes we were working throughout the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, you're working, which meant I was spending less time with my family. And I remember this one particular period where I spent about 2-3 days without seeing my son because, he was much younger at the time. So he obviously goes to bed earlier, than anybody else. And I went like 3 days without seeing him because I was waking up so early in the morning and coming home so late at night.
Yeah.
And it broke me. It totally broke me because I thought to myself, okay, fine. I know we need this money. We've got 2 kids to take care of. We have a bond to take care of and all of these things. However, how much am I willing to sacrifice the time with my kids and my husband for that?
Yeah.
Can that not be replaced?
Yeah.
Can you not find something else to do?
Yeah.
And it was a tough decision. I'm not even going to lie, because we get very comfortable when we incorporate. You've got a guaranteed salary every single month. Whether you're there or not, you still get paid. You've got all these wonderful benefits. And to sit down, we had to sit down with my husband to say, okay, so what's going to be the next plan? What's the next move? What does this mean for us? But I'm glad that, we were able to do that and do it together, because I found that after I left, my kids were much happier because mommy's home and mommy's happy. And when mommy's happy, everybody's happy at home, I'm spending more time with them. I'm getting to know my kids, I'm seeing them differently. So it just changed everything. Because I never thought about it that way until I was in that situation. I just thought, you just need to go to work and pay your bills and do this for your kids. But I never saw the joy that came out of me being, at home more and doing something that fulfills me. That's not just about the money. So yeah, it's a thing it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely relate.
Just on that, right? Just in terms of parents. So we, like myself and you, just to reference to our story. So we decided we need to spend more time with the family. Just we need to be more available in the home front, and then we're available in the home front, and then we also realized that being available in the home front can also take its toll on your mental and spiritual health, because what family and parenting tends to do is like it takes, right? I mean, women are nurturers. So nurture. You must just give and give and give and give. And it takes a lot for you to be able to take a moment to realize that actually I am Karabo first before I am mom first. Right? So then how do I navigate being myself, being the woman outside of being the mom? Because it was quite the journey for me, honestly. And I realized that the one thing that I constantly complained about is I just never have time to myself, like just quiet time of sitting and not doing anything and not being a nurturer, not being a wife, not being a mother. And then I think that was the space for me where I had to sit back and say, okay, so you've identified that there's a problem. You're not spending enough time with yourself. So what are you going to do about it? And I think this has to do with, Sandra said, we need to take accountability of our lives and not play the victim card to say, oh, I'm always, taking care of the kids, and I'm always taking care of the home, and I'm always taking care of the husband, so I never have time to myself. It's like, okay, you've identified the problem. Now come up with a solution. And my solution was waking up earlier in the morning and just having that time before the family wakes up. Then it's just me and my thoughts and whatever else I want to do, so that by the time everyone wakes up and now it's time to serve, I can serve openly without complaining that you guys are always taking from me, because I have filled my cup. Now I actually have a cup to pour from, because I put something in rather than just trying to serve from an empty cup. So do you remember a time in your life where you were able to do stuff for Melody outside of Melody being a mom to 2 children?
Well, yeah. Like it's a recent thing because, as a woman, like you've said, we forget about taking care of ourselves because we're always thinking the kids, the husband, the sister, the cousin, and everybody else, and then you put yourself last. So it's something I had to learn to do, and it only happened after I found myself in hospital with clinical depression, and after spending a couple of days there, I had to come to a decision that my cup was empty, and I was almost like playing the victim as well, like, yeah, but I'm here because this one did that to me and that one did that to me. But I had a role, I played a role in that because I let them do that. I said to them, it's okay. I can just give and give and give. So after that period, being in hospital, I thought to myself, I can't do that anymore. And as hard as it is to make that time for myself, it's something I know now that I need to do. I need to make sure that I'm okay so that my kids and my husband and everybody else can be okay. So it's something I'm learning how to do. It's still very difficult to do. Being a woman it's something else, but it's something that I consciously have to tell myself, like, okay, guys, I'm going to my room. I'm going to play with my makeup for an hour. I do not want to be disturbed. Thank you very much. Sometimes you need to tell your family because if you don't, they take it for granted that you're okay with them just coming in and out and asking and asking and asking. So sometimes you need to lay down the rules and say, guys, it's my time now. So I would like to be left alone, please. And my family is like, they're getting to that part where they understand now. My son still doesn't. I mean, he's only 5. He follows me everywhere, but I don't mind that much. But everybody else is playing, their role and playing that part. So yeah, thank God that I have the family that I have because yeah, it's hard to just take time off as a woman.
For sure. And I think it's in the small stuff.
It's
Sorry,
like
Tando. You can continue. I'll share after you.
No, I was just saying it's like when we started the Oscar Parent Network, the whole idea behind it was that parenting is not just about your children. Parenting is about you, and our motto is healthy parents can raise healthy children. So you need to take care of yourself as much as you need to take care of your kids. And if it means waking up an hour earlier, then wake up an hour earlier. Communicating, like you've said, communicating with your family so they understand as well, so that you can fill your cup. You can be happy. One of our mommy bloggers, Urifilwe Madumo, she did a blog about how she was in a bad space herself. And what she found was when she started working on herself, she started meditating, she started speaking out about her problems and started dealing with them. And she found that her children were happier. But the time when she was in a bad space, her partner wasn't in a good space. Her children were in a good space, So we need to, and Tuli, you spoke about this earlier on as well, is that you need to be aligned. You need to be the light, internally, so that everything else externally can work out.
Yeah. I think maybe just to sum up the parenting section is just to say that we are expected to be givers and nurturers of others, but it's also important to be nurturer of self, right?
Yeah.
Because it's cliche, but it's so important that a happy woman or a happy mom is a happy home, because we are the foundation. I think one of the ladies on the video, I think it was Pindi, who said, I am power and I'm the foundation, and every day I have to build on that. Our families are, it's a lot to carry, but our families are on our shoulders, right? Like we bring the kids into the world, and we raise them up, but at the same time, it's important to also be able to love yourself enough to say, on Mother's Day, I always tell the story about Mother's Day. Mother's Day, I chased everyone outside of my house. I was like, Staba, please take your child and leave my house. I would like to spend Mother's Day alone. That's how I wanted to celebrate me being mom, just on my own. And just selfish decisions like that sometimes can be really healthy. Tando, you mentioned something about partners, about how Refilwe identified that her own unhappiness was also making her partner very unhappy. So maybe we can dive into
Relationships. No, relationships are tricky, guys. Relationships are very, very tricky. So yeah, in terms of relationships, we just want to chat about um how do we realize when our relationships are holding us back, right? And I'd like to open with a personal story. I was in recently, I was in a very, very long term relationship for me, long term for me. Um, and we got to a point where we two people, we loved each other, but we were not growing as individuals. And what had to happen was that we broke up. And explaining that to the family was difficult because everyone's asking, did he cheat on you? Did he hit you? You know,
He
was
was
he
everyone's
loud?
boyfriend.
Yes, he was that, our
Zane.
relationship was everyone's relationship. And the weirdest thing, guys, was after we broke up, obviously there's time for healing and finding yourself. I for myself, my career started getting better because now I was, feeding myself. I was getting better. He was even getting better in his own space. And we actually sat down and we chatted and we're like, okay, hurt aside, breaking up helped us. It really helped build us. We got what we needed from the breakup. So how do I'm just going to put this out on the table, ladies. How do you identify when a relationship is holding you back? Because guys, there's love and then there's, things that just keep you from growing.
Tuli, maybe you can hop on.
Shoot. Am I supposed to go?
Yes. The platform is yours.
Oh, okay. So you forgive me because the feedback is quite slow, so I'm not quite getting a clear signal. But I think for me, what is important is, they always say you must find Mr. Right or find Mrs. Right. But I think the responsibility for all of us is to be the right person. And in that, I mean that you must put in the work to be able to ask yourself a very important question that a life coach mine, once posed to me. And she asked, would you date yourself? Are you dateable? Meaning that when you look at yourself in the mirror, are you the kind of partner that would be satisfying to yourself and to the next person? And the next person is someone that you are looking at yourself and saying, am I able to find compatibility with this person? And so, from a point of view of looking at myself from the outside, I want to be able to hold myself accountable as a person to say, if I am in a relationship, how am I in all four sectors as a person? How am I mentally? How am I physically? How am I spiritually? How financially? Because as much as we think that a relationship is about love, it actually has more to do with love, right? So you know that as a person, if you are mentally absent, that is going to impact on the relationship. If you're financially that is going to have on the relationship. If you are physically unwell, that is going to have an impact on the relationship. Meaning that if you've got insecurities about your body and how you look and your self image, and you want the other person to validate you, that's going to be a problem. And if you are not emotionally stable, meaning that you cannot be by yourself, for yourself, and you feel like you are enough for yourself, it'll be a problem. So the question that we need to ask fundamentally is, are you dateable? Meaning that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you say, am I the person that I'm looking for? Because here we are looking at other people wanting to be other people's bays and people wanting to be our bay. But the compatibility test comes to a point of saying there is a middle ground. The other needs to be happy. I need to be happy. When we come together, we are are happier. And it means that you are excelling level at which you want to excel. Now, if you are at that level and someone comes into your life, it's either they match that or they move you up or they drag you down. And so if someone is not growing at that which you want them to grow, it means they are either a sub level of where you are, or you are just above and of where you are. So you need to make a choice whether you're going to come up with them or you're going to go down to their level. And by that I mean there is a speed at which we all grow. You know, we are not going to be at the same stages in all of our lives. You can meet someone osabereki and that person is working, but you make agreement to say, I am working on it. If someone is not working on themselves and you're working on yourself, there's bound to be a gap of growth there. And that growth would mean that it's either you are meeting them halfway or they have to work to which you are. But if one of you is willing to make that sacrifice, there is going to be tension. And I always say to young people, in fact, you know, like I've got two nieces, and I say to them, if you work on you become the best version of yourself, you are going to be able to look at someone else and say to them, I love you where you are, but you're just not for me. And that is not a form of rejection. That is just to say, you're a good person, yes, but they're just not the right person for you. And so when you meet the right person, things will match up. I think it's a match argument rather than a compatibility, in a sense that the person is tall and you want a short person, or they are dark and you want a light person, and so on and so forth, because other things are just really personal preference than any other thing.
Woo! You said a mouthful, and it's a mouthful that, and I'm sitting here smiling because that is resonating with me so much, right? And I'll also share a personal testimony. I was 18, 19 when I got into a relationship with my husband, and I was, when we got together, I was at a very dark place in my life, right? Like I was this 18-year-old that both her parents, so I was already dealing with a lot of abandonment issues and a lot of trauma. And I've been so dependent on him being present for me in all parts of my life that in the process, like sometimes you feel like he doesn't care about you anymore when you feel like he's not doing what he's expected to do. So what then I'm saying is that I love what you're saying, that you firstly have to be self-aware enough to say, this is who I am, this is the trauma that I have. Kinali, I've got codependency issues, and that's what I need to work on myself. Because then if I continue being this codependent person and my husband chooses himself, because now he's also growing, right? Like he's grown so much from the guy that he was when we started with Nhanere Jola when we were kids to the man that he is today. Now he's also choosing himself. Now he can sit and play a game, yeah, FIFA, when I want to talk about what a terrible day I had. And that sounds, it might sound terrible, right? That, oh, I want to talk, but he's just choosing himself. And I needed to get to a space where I'm okay with him choosing myself, because in the process then I was also okay with choosing myself as well. So I don't feel like, oh, he loves me less, oh, he doesn't make me feel good because he doesn't want to sit all the time and look into my eyes. Now I have to identify, oh, okay, so I'm feeling lonely right now. Okay, so how do I quench my own loneliness without making it an external thing? Find a hobby, Karabo, sit and write. Right? Don't your happiness shouldn't depend on Chaba. Right now, Chaba is choosing himself. Chaba is deciding to take a nap, and that's okay. So how are you going to make sure that you're okay without your partner? So I absolutely love that.
And what I'd like to add to what you just said, Karabo, is that we have our own expectations of our partners in the relationship, but we never ever sit down and think about our expectations for our partners. Whether you're being unrealistic with your expectations, because you know who your partner is and you know what your needs are. So it's okay to ask and say, partner, can we sit down? I need to talk about this. But at the same time, if I want him to drop everything every time, Handy, he's been busy at work the whole day, he's had a terrible day, and he just wants to sit and clear his mind and play FIFA. Do you see? We need to be aware of what we're asking from our partners and what we're giving as well.
Yes.
Mm.
But I think that point, sorry, Melody, I'm gonna ask you to come in here and share your experience. But before we do that, I think the biggest factor that ruins relationships is uncommunicated expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, and this is one thing that women do a lot.
Mm.
Like you say one thing until you mean the other.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many statuses now of, there's a status the other day, a girl saying, babes, you know what, on my birthday, please don't buy me anything. And then the guy actually doesn't buy you anything. And then you're looking at him sideways,
Yeah.
no, you mustn't buy anything.
Yeah.
No, you said he mustn't buy you anything. So if you have an expectation of what this guy is supposed to do on your birthday, please say, babe, you know, Naka birthday, I actually like to be with bed, and I'd actually like you to buy me flowers, or because then if he doesn't do all of that, now the whole day you are here side-eyeing flowers, and then when they don't come, you're like, oh, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care about me. Communicate.
And when there's a problem and he's like, babe, what's wrong? You're like, nothing.
Yes.
Something. Just communicate. And I've also personally had to learn this. And I learned this in therapy, that there's always a way to communicate stuff. Sit down with your partner and say, my pain point is this, and this is how it makes me feel. How can we work around it? Communicate expectations to say, babe, Naka Mother's Day, I actually would like to spend a day alone. Would you be able to do that? If he can't, he can't. If he can, he'll tell you, okay, actually I can. Rather than you wake up Mother's Day and he's here and he must now sense, thinking my wife needs space.
Talk.
Even in the bedroom, guys, you need to speak up. You need to speak up. When he's kissing her and he moves, but you're enjoying it, you must not. No, come back. Come back.
This has been powerful. I don't know if all the ladies here have read Dr. T's book. Please go get a guide to sexual health and pleasure. This will teach you to communicate.
Yeah.
We need to communicate what our preferences are and what we have from relationships.
Yeah.
We can't expect our men to always know.
And I think we also, as women, the one thing that I've learned throughout my relationship with my husband is we don't like to be called out. We don't like it when our partners hold us accountable for our actions. As women, it's like it's a shocking thing when your partner says, yeah, but you're wrong by doing A, B, and C. It's like we always like to go on like we're so perfect and we do everything perfectly. And as soon as, we are held accountable for our actions, it's like, no, I didn't do anything. And we don't know how to apologize as well. So it's something that I've learned in this relationship where it came as a shock because my husband is always, calling me out like, hey, akwenziwa so, type of a thing. And it's still a thing that's still like, it still shocks me a little bit. But then again, I have to, I sit and I'm like, is he right? Is he wrong? Because if he's right, then I need to do what I need to do and apologize and make the situation right. So self-introspection is a big part of relationships. And it's something that we don't do enough of because it's easier to point the finger and say, it's him. Where else you don't look at yourself and say, but what did I do? What role did I play, in this whole situation? So it's a learning process. But like everybody's saying, it's just a matter of communicating. Communicate what your needs are everywhere, whether it's financial, sexual, emotional. Some of us, our life languages are, I want you to show me emotion. Some people, they love languages, it's in the bedroom, so it's all about talking. I mean, this is your partner, it's somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So what better way of enjoying this journey together than talking? And we're just talking, guys. It's just talk. I don't know why people are so afraid of talking. It's just words, like we make it such a big deal, but it's so powerful, and it can change so many things for yourself and for your partner, that we really, it's so underrated. So we need to talk. Let's talk.
We really do need to talk, and we need to also realize that we shape the spaces that we're in.
Yeah.
And the best way to shape is by communicating. So if I don't like the color blue, I must just say once, I don't like the color blue, and then I won't see the color blue around me.
Yeah.
Not just in relationships and everything that we do.
Yeah.
When you speak it, you bring it to life. So
Exactly.
communication is important because you're bringing your desires to life.
Oh, I love that. I love that. But also, we can't disregard the fact that some relationships are just sick.
Yeah.
Like some relationships are just toxic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some men, some women are not in a state to be committed to other people. They don't know how to do that. They don't know what that means. So some relationships can be really abusive, and obviously abuse. Okay, I'm not gonna say obviously. Abuse comes in a lot of form, right? Because he doesn't clap you doesn't mean he's not abusive. The stuff that he says to you that diminishes your self-confidence, like comparing you to his exes or comparing your food to his mother's food all the time. So abuse can definitely come in a lot of forms. He can abuse you mentally, financially, he can abuse you emotionally, he can also abuse you physically as well. So then what do we do in those situations? Because I think there's a lot of women that find themselves in those kinds of relationships, and it's not as just easy to say, and it's harder. It's hard. Like if I had to think now, if Chaba had to like turn around and just be a monster, I mean, I've already built a life with this guy. We live together. We're married. We have a child. We've got like plans about our future. So it's gonna be hard to say, sorry, Mina, I can't tolerate that. Like some people sit because sometimes it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Right? Out there in the world and trying to figure it out without your partners. So I don't know if any of you ladies have a testimony to share about finding yourself in an abusive relationship in all forms. Oh, hello, Melody. Please share your testimony.
Yeah. So I've been there. At a very young age, like between 18 and 23, I found myself in a relationship with a guy who was all of the above. It started first, it was the control thing, where he started controlling me, where I went, who I was talking to on the phone, what I was wearing, and what I was doing with my spare time. And then it went from that to the verbal abuse, where he started calling me names, which I won't repeat here. And it kind of like, it diminished my confidence. I just became somebody totally different because of it. But at the time, I think, number one, I was young. Number two, I thought, you know what, he's a human being, he makes mistakes. So I kind of tolerated it, but it never changed. It didn't get better. So the verbal abuse changed from that, and then it became sexual abuse, where if I would say no to his sexual advances, there was an issue. I was accused of cheating because I'm saying not tonight. And that changed from there to physical abuse, where when I would disagree with him or say something that he doesn't like, I would get a slap here and there, or I was being dragged on the floor with, he was holding my hair and take out my SIM card from my phone. And it got worse. it got worse. It got to a point where I remember this one time I came from work and I hadn't spoken to him that day because I was in a call center. So when you're in a call center, you're on the phone the whole day, you know. And I came home and he says to me, I need to take off my underwear. So I'm like, but why? And he's like, but I just need to check something. So in any case, I take off my underwear and he smells it. You know, he smells it. He says to me, this doesn't smell okay. This smells like you were with somebody. I'm like, the hell? Like, where the hell am I even going to get time to do that? You know? And he's like, it doesn't smell okay. Where were you? You know, I can smell his perfume on you. So look, abuse, it's a systematic thing. You know, it's intentional. And a lot of us as women, sometimes the signs are there, but we take it as it's just a bit of jealousy. You know, don't worry about it. It's cute. He's a little bit jealous. But the thing is, you have to look at how it's being done. You know, there's always that thing of doing something out of love. And then there's that thing doing something because you want to hurt the other person, you know. And I stayed. I mean, I stayed for 5 years, mostly because I think I was scared for my life. You know, I thought to myself, if I leave this person, what's going to happen? Because every time I threatened to leave him, he threatened to commit suicide. And he had attempted suicide, you know, twice before. So I believed that he would kill himself if I left. So I stayed. But, you know, at the end, when I think for me, what made me leave was when he bought a gun. And he bought a gun. We had just bought a house, you know, in a very safe place. You know, it's a gated community. It's a townhouse. Like, why the hell do we need a gun for, you know? And he was like, no, it's for security. And I knew at that point, like, this guy is going to kill me. I'm going to die at his hands and I'm going to die young. You know, I haven't done the things that I want to do. I haven't achieved, you know, some of my goals. And I had a young child, you know, and I was like, you know, if I die and he dies, what happens to our child? You know, she's going to be orphaned. She's not going to even remember us, because at the time she was like a year old when I left. So I made a decision. I was like, you know what, this, I have to get out. So I just started planning and I left him and I've never looked back. And today I can sit and talk about it like this without tearing up, because, you know, it's taken me so long to talk about it and to make peace with it. But all I can say is that, you know, when you see the signs of abuse, you know, don't ignore them. It doesn't get better. It will only get worse. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes for you to leave. Because by the time that, you know, the physical abuse is happening, you're in love with this person. A lot of the times you feel sorry for them because you want to help them. You're a woman, you know, we women, God made us different. You know, you're nurturing and you're thinking this person needs help. You know, if I leave him like this, what's going to happen to him? So, you know, abuse is, it's a real thing. And a lot of people don't understand what abuse is. You know, we're always thinking abuse is just when somebody acts shy, but there's so many aspects to it. And there's so many people who miss it because they don't understand what it is.
Sure.
So
Firstly, thank you for sharing that so openly with us. We really appreciate that. And I think what the issue that I've realized as I grow up is that we have been taught that maybe we're the generation that's breaking those chains. But a lot of times you are taught as Mosadi Hore, a man that questions what you're wearing. Oh my gosh, that skirt is too short. That he loves you, no? You're his girl, and he doesn't want anyone else to see, you know, your flesh. You know, a guy that always calls you to find out where you are, checking your every movement. Like, oh, Shem, he really loves you. Like, how about him? He's so overprotective. Kanti, that's already like a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Right. That's like that's a big red flag. But again, we miss it because we've never been taught that that's actually like really abusive.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that. Like, it's not his property. You don't belong to him. You're a person outside of the relationship. So I think it's important to continue the conversation to say, and we still have to have those conversations to say, violence is not a way of of showing love. Like
Mm.
that's not tough love. That's not a thing.
Mm.
This is conversation of Ubegezela as well.
Yes.
There's this expectation that women must put up with the
Mm.
work. And
Yes.
we need to know that it's okay to leave before you die. It's
Mm.
okay to leave before you're physically hurt. It's
Mm.
okay to take care of yourself. If the relationship is not working, it's
Mm.
all right.
Mm.
We are told that as women, and I feel maybe our mothers and our grandmothers are just trying to teach us to be strong, but being
Mm.
strong doesn't mean you have to put up
with
with
it. Yeah.
rubbish.
And that's why, for me, when I eventually decided to leave, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell not a single person. I went about and I did it on my own, in my own terms. And the only time that everybody found out about it was when I had found my own place. I had signed the lease and I was literally leaving, because I knew that going to my mom or my family, they're going to tell me he's such a good guy, because they don't know his other side. They're going to tell me he's a good guy. It's hard to find a good guy. Just, be patient. So I did it in my own terms, and I'm glad that I did, because I feel like if I hadn't, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So we really need to educate, our parents and society and friends, and let people know that, when people come out to you and they say, I'm being abused, you need to give them that safe space and listen, without judgment, and give more empathy, because people don't believe you. They don't believe you because they don't see him like that. You're the one that sees him like that. But if we don't believe the victims, where are they supposed to go?
Yeah.
That's why people suffer in silence, because nobody believes us.
Yeah. I want us to actually hop into that. I want us to talk about the role women play in women staying in toxic and abusive relationships, because I posted on Facebook the other day, Guti, some women don't even open up about the abuse that happens behind closed doors because they don't want to be judged by other women. But before we hop into that, Tuli, can you share your testimony with us about being in a relationship of that nature?
Okay, so I think, well, first of all, I just want to commend Melody for leaving, and I just tell anyone who's watching that it actually, contrary to popular belief, it's not as easy as it is to leave, right? So you obviously tell the person to leave, but there's all kinds of things that are involved, and I think where I would actually start is what you've learned about love in your childhood and what you've learned in your journey as a young adult about love, that begins to reinforce this idea that you actually need to hold on and ubegezele, and it's part of almost like the teething stages of a new relationship where there's miscommunication. You just pissed him off for a bit, he's mad, you guys don't understand each other, and you're probably too sensitive, right? And so these are the things that begin to make you think that you're probably overthinking, you are mad, you're being too sensitive. But as Melody said, it's really the beginning of it, right? So the emotional blackmailing, the insults are really the beginning of a really toxic relationship, and then it begins to be more abusive as you go along the way. So he first starts insulting you, and then he'll physically hit you, and then eventually you will die because he's going to get more aggressive and more aggressive, right? And so that's what happened with me, and it's funny that Melody and I kind of share the same age bracket of when we began to find ourselves in an abusive relationship. I was also 19. My first relationship as I was in varsity, and I met this guy, incredibly intelligent, charming, of course, charismatic, because that's the other thing. Abusers have an identity kit. They are they're very charming, and so they weave their way into your mind to a point where they almost make sure that they are your only and single support system. They will make sure that everyone around you does not have influence over your mind, does not have influence on your decision making, because they want you to keep going back to them for validation, keep going back to them for support, and all sorts of things that you would probably need from other people that will stop you from interacting with him. And so what happened is really, and as Melody was actually speaking, I felt like we are comparing notes, because I myself as well used to be a research student, and I used to work in an area called Orlando in Soweto. And the one time I didn't answer my phone, I came back home to like 20 missed calls, right? For me, I was just like panicking, thinking to myself something had happened. So I rushed and I got to his place only to find that he just wanted to speak to me. And he was so mad that I didn't answer my phone. And that's where the actual problem started, because he started making me believe that there was something wrong when I didn't answer my phone. And then I was accused of cheating. And then the cheating became the bone of contention, because every time we'd argue, he would say to me, yeah, you're cheating, you're cheating. And then by coincidence, I got a phone call from some random lady who was accusing me of being with being with her husband or something like that. And I said to him, please speak to this person, because I don't know what this person is talking about. Little did I know that he'll actually make that his argument all the time. And he said to me, you know what, I'm going to kill you. And he would constantly remind me that I would leave his place body bag. So what I'm saying is, you don't wake up to an abusive relationship. It actually has stages, right? But the role that women play in women, or rather other women staying in an abusive relationship, is not one that I can naturally place on like women per se. I would think it's society in general, because society has made women feel like they need to be the strong ones. They need to be the better people. They need to be the people that do the right thing in a relationship, meaning that you need to conduct yourself in a certain way that does not push this guy to act in a certain way. And this is kind of the same, mentality that is perpetuated in society for people who are, rape survivors and so on and so forth, because the role is placed on a woman to not act in a certain way, to not lead this person on, to not dress in a certain way, so that it makes the man not accountable for his own actions, isn't it? So it must have been something that you have done that has made this man in a certain way. So what women then tend to do really is to kind of minimize the pain, to say, Nchomi, if you can just hold on a bit. We are not quick to say, you get out of that situation right now. You do not wait for another hour. You do not wait for another day. But it's also, for me, another thing that we have not created enough spaces to allow for a conversation for our friends, our family members to come out and say, you know what, actually, this is what's happening. And I am struggling to come out. And so you then ask yourself, what is it about society fundamentally that is wrong, to a point where we are judgmental on the victim, right? We place so much emphasis on the victim that, okay, like for instance, if someone dies, right? So I'll take a very recent example. When we all found out that Tshego had been leashed by her, her then boyfriend, we said, but could she have done that? Should have pushed this guy to actually do that. But we are not saying to ourselves, okay, what actually really happened here? And even as we actually started finding out the details about it, we said, okay, fine, maybe it's the wife that organized this crime. What is it that this man could have done? We didn't ask that question, right? We didn't say, but why didn't that husband stay at home? Why did not that husband just be faithful, right? We didn't ask all of those questions. And so again, we are putting the blame so much on women. But I think what I will say to you is that women are beginning to find their voice, and that's something that's very foreign in Black communities. And once you begin to raise your voice as a Black woman, you are looked at as disrespectful. You are looked at as someone who is, unmannered. And so women who tend to speak out are angry and are ostracized. But I think what we need to do and put emphasis on is to normalize people speaking out. Because you see, if you have your voice, you will be able to call out any kind of bad behavior, be it from your partner or your family member, because abuse does not only take place in an abusive relationship, it also takes place in our family situations. So if you're able to say to yourself, I do not deserve to be treated like this by anybody, you'll be able to then not stand for it at all in a relationship. You'll say, in my family, no one has ever treated me like this. In fact, even if they did, right now and here, I'm deciding that it has to come to a stop, and it will come to a stop through me. No other woman in my family will go through this because I have decided to put a stop on it.
Sure.
And you know what? Sorry to cut you. I just feel like at this moment I just have to add that if there are people watching out there who don't have that space, that safe space where they can speak up about what's happening to them, Power has social media. They have I think you can DM them on Instagram. You can send them a message on Facebook, even if you're still trying to figure out what's happening to you, even if you're not sure whether to leave yet or not, talking to someone goes a long way. So send Power a DM. If you want to remain anonymous, find a way to communicate with them, and they can really, really help you out. We're busy writing a show about women, GBV survivors, right? And and the research we've found while writing is that a lot of the time women don't leave because the grass is not greener on the other side. So yes, I'm being abused. Yes, he's beating me up. Yes, he's saying this. Yes, he's saying this. But I don't have anywhere to go. And there are so many places. What I'm going to do is on the Ask a Parent platform, I will share a list of all the places where women can actually go to if they're like, I need to leave this place. I need somewhere to run. I need a safe house. There are homes all over South Africa where you can just grab your bag and go and not have to explain to anyone. If you don't have money, it's okay. Just go. We will put up that list for you so that you are taken care of. If that is not enough, please DM Ask a Parent or Black Mom Chronicles. Can I shove you in there as well? It's really important to speak. So I was molested as a kid, right? And I didn't tell anyone because I had that fear that if I speak up, that if I speak up, I will lose my family. I will ruin everybody's lives. So I had taken it upon myself to sit there and take it. And it wasn't because my family wasn't supportive. I am very blessed, guys. I am blessed with a family where if I'm sad and I walk in the room, everyone is like, who are we beating up? But because I had that kind of family, I was worried that if I speak up, I'll lose everything and they will lose everything. And there was a day where I went to church and I broke down and I couldn't stop crying. And people are trying to comfort me and I can't stop crying. And one of the youth leaders at the time, she pulled me aside and she's like, Tando, what's going on? And I'm like, I can't tell you. She's like, it's okay. Just tell me. I won't tell anyone. You don't ever have to speak about it again. And I spoke to her about it. And opening up for the first time was so difficult, but it brought some clarity as well. It brought some clarity, and she had experienced it as well. And the only way she got out was to speak to her family. And that same day, I went home and I sat down and I spoke to my mom. And you know how much healing happened from just speaking. And I feel like even if it's one person, even if you talk to one person, it will go a long way in helping you heal. Sorry, lady.
No, so good.
Oh,
So good. I'm very proud of you
Sorry
for doing
about that.
yeah.
very proud of you for doing this.
And thank you for speaking up.
Yeah, because I think I believe in the power of storytelling so much because at the end of the day we go through very similar experiences,
Mm.
but we don't share them for various reasons. And in the power of sharing, someone else watching here probably went through the very same thing and they've
Mm.
probably been trying to navigate a situation like that. So I'm very, very proud of you. And it sounds so cliche, but talking actually helps. Like it's because sometimes
does.
we carry burdens that have absolutely nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Your family remaining intact and unbroken was not your responsibility, Tando, but you
Mm.
felt that it was. And so you carried that for such a long time. And actually
Sure.
talking to someone was like that load being lifted off of your shoulders to say,
Mm.
you just have to deal with this. This is the trauma that you have to deal with and not everything else. So I just shared now the the lockdown canceling number from Power. That 0766945911. Please share that on your socials. I'll also share it after this on my socials. But it's so important to have someone that we can talk to. And sometimes talking to a stranger, we feel like it's better than talking to people that we know. But I think the important message here is the fact that we should also be very intentional about creating a kind of environment with people that we love where they feel comfortable to talk.
Yeah.
Because then we can't blame them and say, Mara, why mangjelanga?
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
you never created that kind of environment.
Mm.
I think it's very important. Like I'm always putting myself out there in the most purest of manners to say, if you ever want to talk, hit me up. And on my part, it's a huge load to carry because then people come to you and they tell you the most heavy things. But then it also makes me so happy to know that someone is comfortable enough to talk to me.
To talk to
And
you.
after that, they feel so much lighter and they say, "Oh, thank God," you know. So it's that we are like we have to. That's why we exist in a community because we have to be our sister's keeper because
Yeah.
sisters go through a lot. Like women go through so much. We go
Mm.
through so much. And I always think about my mother when I think about just a strong woman, just about Mbogoto. Like my mom was such a champ. She tolerated so much. But then she managed to overcome a lot of that, mental illness, addiction. Like she battled with a lot, and she's just one of the people that I look at and say, if she can do it with the circumstances that she faced, then I can definitely navigate anything and absolutely everything. So thank you, Tando, for sharing. Thank you, Tuli, for sharing that. And def- like Melody, thank you for sharing your testimonies on that. Ompile also just said now, thank you for creating this platform. Conversations start revolutions, ladies.
Yes, yes, yes.
Conversations start revolutions.
I love
So this
that.
is not a useless conversation. This
Absolutely.
is definitely something. So I'm
Mm.
I'm very grateful for this. Very, very grateful. I think we're almost out of time. So Tando, actually let's start with Melody. Melody, any closing remarks from your side?
First of all, thank you so much, ladies, for this platform. I think for me, because of the journey that I'm on at the moment, it's so perfect. But it's also made me realize that we need a lot more of these because there's so much pain in the world. There's a lot that we're all going through. And sometimes we just do it on our own when we don't have to. So I'm really, really hoping that we can do this quite often. I'm hoping that we can get it out there because as women, like you guys said, we go through so much. We go through so much and we carry the load and we do it all by ourselves when we don't have to. So thank you so much for having me today. And I hope that my testimony, my story reaches the right ears, the right audience, because for me, it's all about helping the next person, letting them know that it's okay, it's not your fault. And most importantly, that, you know what, you can pick up your life, you can still achieve your goals and your dreams. Abuse does not define you. So thank you for the platform. It's been an honor to be here and to meet Tuli and you, Karabo, and seeing you, Tando. It's nice to see you again. It's been a minute. So thank you so much, and I hope we can do this again.
Definitely, would love to continue the conversation. Thank you so much, Tuli. Any closing remarks from your side?
Yeah, so firstly, I just want to say thank you, Garabo, the invitation, but thank you, Bella, for the courage to actually do this, but to both of you specifically for allowing me and Melody to be able to share your light. You created such a beautiful platform for women and other young women to be able to reach out in conversation that is about healing. What has been important and glaring for me in 2020 has been how all of us have been faced to, or rather challenged to come back to self and to heal self. So we are all on a healing journey. And I think this conversation is evident that we are all having to face our childhood traumas and be able to say, how is it that as an adult I've ended up with sort of these bad decisions or these decisions or this kind of life? And so it's part of healing our childhood, our little child in us to be able to be better individuals so that this world can heal. But I think for all of us, the one thing that I want to highlight is that hurt people hurt other people. The more we begin to actually heal ourselves, the better we become in becoming the light and the armor in the world to be able to support other people. And so as I close, I want to say, let us be light, let us be the healing energy in society that other people need. But first, let us have healed ourselves first before we try to attempt healing other people, before we do any other damage. And so thank you for this time. Thank you for allowing me to come into your presence, and may the Almighty open other doors so they may bring this kind of conversation on a bigger platform.
Thank you.
Asante, Tuli, thank you so much. I think just to echo what you said, we have to heal ourselves first before we try and heal those around us. I love that. I just want to go through like the comments a little bit and then give Tando the baton to close off. So it's been absolutely amazing. I think with relationships, obviously said, yeah, our families are also problematic. So good on you for not telling anyone your plans to get out of it. I think this was addressed to Melody. Our mothers say we should stay, but we know better. We know better. Like I'm not gonna do anything for me, so I'm gonna be outie. Lobisa Mutororo said ukubekezela is a word that shouldn't even exist in a woman's vocabulary. Hey,
Amen to that.
We are breaking the bekezela chains and Tando said, "Don't bekezela." I like that.
True.
And then Tuli said we should normalize speaking out, and I think speaking out in every part of our lives, work, relationships, everywhere. It's something like khuluma. And then we had Ompile says, thank you for creating this platform. It's an absolute pleasure, Ompile. Thank you for watching and engaging. And then Ausilungile Masirumule says, thank you, ladies. We definitely need more of these conversations.
Yes, we do.
We definitely do. And I'm
We
glad
do.
we were able to have this. And thank you everyone for watching. Ando, over to you to close off for us, madam.
I just wanna close with a friend of mine, Zalama, put up a status the other day where she said, when you let go of victim, healing can begin. And when you let go of victim, the healing can begin. And I think this applies in all areas of our lives. In your toxic workspaces, take control. Take control of the spaces you frequent. Take control of the things you feed your mind. Take control of the things you feed your spirit. Stop being the victim of circumstances where things are happening to you. Get into a space where you make things happen. You need to, the only expectations that you should live by are ones that you set for yourself. That's how I'd like to close the show. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Truly, it was lovely to finally meet you and sit with you and be blown away.
Thank you.
I'm blown away every time I have a conversation with today. She's
right. Melody, I know it was also tricky for you to be with us today, and you made a plan, and we're very, very grateful for that. Bravo, thank you for being an awesome person. Love you. And everyone who joined us today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate it. You can continue the conversation, with comments under this video. And I love you.
Yay! Just because we are in the social space, can you please go follow Ask a Parent _ZA? Melody, you can find out Melody Zondo. She's doing pageant beautiful things. So please make sure you support. And Tuli is also out there doing very big, beautiful things. Beyond her inner conversations, very big on women empowerment and empowerment of us as beings and doing the internal work. She's big on internal work. So let's go out there and do some internal work and follow everyone who's out here just trying to share a story and be a light for people. So,
yes.
Thank you so much, guys. We just got a comment in Germany. We call you guys Ehrenfrau. I hope that's a nice thing. I don't know what it means. Ehrenfrau. I hope thank you, Zanzi. For us, that's Mbogoto. In Germany, they call us Mbogoto.
What it means, I just Googled, ladies. It says it refers to a person you can always count on, who's loyal to his or her family and friends. Oh, this is sweet.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
How do you say it in German, guys? Danke? I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you, universe. Love you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.